Good evening, and welcome to another edition of the FTTC podcast, sponsored by the Squatty Potty, helping you push the shit right off your team. We are your home for breaking news and breaking balls in the fantasy sports world. From touchdowns to tailgates, we've got it all covered with a dash of witty banter. I'm your host, Jason Stankiewicz, and later on, I'll be joined by the FTTC's gas provider, Strickland Propane. On today's podcast, we'll take a rip through the league to discuss all the FTTC results of Week 6 and take a deeper look at some of the recent waiver wire moves before chatting with the man in the can, ? And on that note, let's get to it. All right, so looking back at Week 6 here, a rather uneventful week. A lot of parity in the league right now, a lot of middling scores, not too many highs, not too many lows. That being said, the one standout of the week, Take a Stand, back on top. 123 points against Jordy's Ghost. Jordy's Ghost throwing up 90 points. Not the best, not the worst, but, Take a Stand comes out a little bit worse for the wear, though. Christian McCaffrey, a little bit banged up. Nobody's really sure if he's going to miss some time or not. Cohen Williams looks like he's going to miss a little bit of time, potentially headed to IR. He may even be on IR already, but a tough blow for Take a Stand. But that being said, Take a Stand, one of the deepest running back teams in the league. Jonathan Taylor, slotting right into that lineup. Raheem Mostert, top running back in Miami right now. So, he's coming in with some hot replacements right off the bat. Another move for Take a Stand as well, starting Desmond Ridder at quarterback. Benched Brock Purdy. He's streaming quarterbacks. Somehow it's working. Take a Stand right now is, bounced back after a couple tough matches, but doing all right. On the other side, Jordy's Ghost, just kind of an average performance. Not really bad, not really great. Didn't get the baby bounce. Congratulations to Mr. O'Malley, by the way, for bringing in a new employee into the team. Might be a little too junior to make an impact, but congratulations, Jack, on the baby. We all are wishing the best for you and hope everyone's healthy. That being said, you had a lot of disappointment from your RBs. Dameon Pierce, not great. Jahmyr Gibbs has been a complete disappointment. Amir Demercado, not great. 2 points there. So a tough set of RBs for Jordy's Ghost. He's still rocking 3 quarterbacks. Can't seem to get it right with the streamers. Started Kirk Cousins. Should have started Jared Goff with 22 points. Wouldn't have made a difference, though. That being said, did pick up Drake London, even though he was on the bench. A nice pickup. Threw up 17 points. If Drake London gets it figured out, he could be a solid performer for Jordy's Ghost. Moving on to our next matchup, we have the Commissioner. Nice catch, Blanco Nino, who fell to Mike's Lucky Charm. Mike's Lucky Charm putting up 90.98 points. Would have been just good enough to beat Jordy's Ghost. And was, maybe it looks like the 7th highest score in the week. So bottom half score for Mike's Lucky Charm. But good enough to knock off nice catch Blanco Nino. Mike's Lucky Charm, a solid management week for them. Benched Saquon Barkley, which is always a risky move in favor of Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Pacheco, Zay Flowers. Paid off. All those players scored more than Barkley. Calvin Ridley, Devontae Adams didn't do much from the wide receiver position. That being said, I think Mike's Lucky Charm definitely has a lot of talent on this roster. One of the deeper teams in the league, some top-end talent. No surprise, really, he's sitting at 4-2. On the other side, you had nice catch Blanco Nino. Losing Josh Allen, potentially. I think he came out of that game a little bit banged up. George Kittle throwing up 0.6 points, nothing special. So, nice catch Blanco Nino. I mean, looking at the roster, without Justin Jefferson, and with Puka Nacua having a down week, it was always going to be really tough. I just think nice catch Blanco Nino lacks top-end talent outside of maybe Josh Allen. So, if the things keep going the way they are, this could be a bottom 2, bottom 3 team by the end of the year. Would not be surprised whatsoever to see nice catch Blanco Nino battling it out for potentially being the golf pro in the league. Otherwise, a rather uneventful matchup. Mike's Lucky Charm again pulls it out. Moving on to our next one here, we had Strickland Propane versus Mr. Naz, Mr. Roadrunner's Naz. Naz pulls it out 117-89. Strickland Propane again fails to score more than 90 points and still has, I think, the second most points in the league, or maybe it's the 4th most, actually. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like the 4th most. So, Strickland Propane still a solid team, but definitely has had a couple down weeks in a row now. hasn't quite gotten too many great performances from the RB position. Gus Edwards, still a corpse. We'll touch on that a little bit later when we speak to the man himself. On the Nats side, though, this team is bouncing back a little bit. And I think, we've talked some shit, and we may even talk a little bit more a little bit later on Mr. Propane, but there is some talent on this roster. If Cooper Kupp comes back and is as advertised. I mean, Cooper Kupp, 24 points. If he gets that on a weekly basis, Naz will be a solid performer. Still needs a quarterback. Could probably do with another running back. Kyle Pitts, definitely not consistent enough, but, Naz has done a good job improving his team, made a good trade with Strickland Propane. And overall, Naz is maybe not near the bottom as much anymore. Sitting 2-4 and 11th right now, but overall, I think from a roster standpoint, there is some talent on this roster, whereas there are some other teams in the league that don't quite have that talent. Moving on to our next matchup here, we had my team, Stinky, falling to Team DS last week. 103 for DS, 80 for Stinky. Not a great week. It was a stinky week. Jahan Dotson, a real letdown. Pretty banged up at the moment. Had 4 players either out or on injured reserve. Looking for a couple players. So putting that word out there to the rest of the league. Stinky's in the market. Willing to work with anyone, willing to trade anyone, looking for just a couple top tier players to fill out the roster a little bit. On the Team DS side, 103 points, top performer Tyreek Hill. I mean, Tyreek is the wide receiver 1. He might have been the wide receiver 1 even if Justin Jefferson stuck around. And he's a carrying player for Team DS. Jalen Hurts right up there with him. Christian Kirk, 12 points. Ramondre Stevenson, 15. David Montgomery got banged up, 3.5 points. But Lane Thomas, a tight end, 0.7. And, Team DS struggling for a tight end. If we're going to see him make a move, wouldn't be surprised to see one end up at that position for Team DS. Moving on to our second to last matchup here, we had Sneaky Pete sneaking on by again. Somehow Sneaky Pete, keeps dodging the top scoring teams. Lowest scoring team in the league right now at 517 points. He's won 2 in a row, sitting at 3-3. So Sneaky Pete has definitely gotten some luck lately. But overall, a decent performance, 98 points to 77 for Auto Draft Bot Squad. Auto Draft Bot Squad falls to 12th at 2-4. And ADBS, really a victim of Justin Fields. Adam Thielen turned out to be one of the steals of the year. Marquise Brown, we've talked about it before, has generally been pretty good as well in terms of being a steal. It's been the top tier players that just really haven't done it for Auto Draft Bot Squad. Austin Eckler has been a major disappointment. DK Metcalf hasn't really shined through. Quarterback's been an issue. Miles Sanders has been barely on the field. Same thing with Aaron Jones. So Auto Draft Bot Squad has struggled. On the Sneaky Pete side, Tua has been a decent move. Picking him up, he's been a decent quarterback, but he did have Dak on his bench with 24 points. So, there are some other quarterbacks out there who can pick up points. Bijan, 10 points. He's been okay. Alexander Madison, 10 points. Again, okay. Just a lot of okay. I don't see the top-end talent on Sneaky Pete, but right now it's good enough to sneak by and stay away from Stinky Pete. Moving on to our last matchup of the week here, we had Mr. Vic Vinegar coming in at 3-3 as well, 111 to 95 over the D-Zasters, who fall down to third. Mr. Vic Vinegar's in there 3-3, but I would be surprised if he's not competing for a title both in the regular season and in the playoffs. I mean, his team is just loaded. There's so much talent on this, so much depth. But at the same time, every week that Mr. Vinegar passes with this amount of depth on his team is a week where it might be too much and not enough top-tier talent. I'm just waiting for him to go out and make a move. There's definitely a player or two that he could get that could really turn this season into a championship season for him. We've yet to see Vic Vinegar make that move in all the years of fantasy football. Maybe this year's the year. On the DC side, a fine performance would have been good enough to beat a bunch of teams this week, but got beaten by a better team. So overall, a tough week for Disasters. It's been a lot of tough weeks, but we'll see how he performs this week in the Stink Bowl against Stinky. Moving on to our next segment here, Waiver Wonderings. We just want to look at some of the waiver wire pickups from the past week or two and give some analysis around them because there's been some interesting moves. First of all, I want to highlight Jordy's Ghost dropping a solid $32 on Amari DeMarcado. And in the drops this week, I saw DeMarcado's name pop up. So Jordy's Ghost giving up quickly on DeMarcado after spending a good third of his budget on him. That's going to go up there as one of the worst waivers of the year. Sneaky Pete threw out $17 for a defense. Yeah, I get that it's Cleveland and they're putting up a historically good season right now, but I mean, come on, that's way too much money. Sneaky. Zach Evans for 25 for the Disasters. Another big bid on a hope and a prayer. Really just searching out there, trying to get one of these waiver wire pickups to work out, but I just they haven't quite worked out yet. I'm not sure Zach Evans will be the guy. On the Mike's Lucky Charm side, Rashee Rice for $15. Not cheap, but Rashee Rice is starting to establish himself a little bit, and if he does that with Patrick Mahomes, that's a good pickup, and it'll be worth it. Drake London dropped by Vic Vinegar. I mean, there's so much depth. He had to drop someone. I get it. But at the same time, I think it's a crazy drop and a great pickup for $37. Missed it myself. I should have bid on it. But that one is, to Jordy's Ghost credit, a great move. Now, last one, we got Mike's Lucky Charm taking a stab on K1, Kyler Murray, hoping that he can help solve some of the quarterback issues there. I'm curious to see what Kyler does. I'm not optimistic. I think he'll be a bust, but it is what it is. Anyway, we've got a mailbag coming up with Strickland Propane a little bit later, but right before we get to him, let's answer one mailbag question, and then we'll move on to Sam the Man. This one on the topic of Drake London comes from Mr. Vic Vinegar, who says, does Jacko really think I'm going to trade him T. Higgins for Drake London, who I dropped to the waivers weeks ago? Perhaps the lack of sleep is clouding his judgment. In John, who I trust, until Freiermuth is healthy. Honestly, not really a question, not really a mailbag, just a comment, but I think Vic Vinegar should be looking at some better tight ends. You know, maybe he's looking to get Jordy's Ghost from, or maybe he's looking to get Travis Kelce from Jordy's Ghost. Who knows? Vic, if you're listening out there, Mark Andrews could be an option for you. We should talk a little bit. But if Johnny's the guy, I'd be surprised, but he's putting up points, so maybe I'm too quick to talk. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today we have another special guest for you, Mr. Sam Prentice, owner of Strickland Propane and a.k.a. Man in the Can. Without further ado, let's hear from Sam. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was our interview with Mr. Sam Prentice, Strickland Propane. Best of luck to him in the future. And thanks again for listening to another episode of the FTTC podcast. Best of luck to our league in the upcoming Week 7 matchups. We look forward to recapping them again next week. I'm your host, Jason Stagwitz. Until next time. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here today by a man trending more toward Man in the Can than Strickland Propane, but it is the gas man himself, Mr. Sam Prentice. Sam, how we doing?
I'm doing well, Jess. Thanks for having me back on the pod.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you. I think last time we talked to you was obviously preseason. Things were looking up. There was definitely a lot of hope around the Strickland Propane camp, but a tough year so far.
Yeah, it's been a less than ideal start to the year. Obviously, still time to turn that around, but not looking great so far.
Yeah, I mean, just for our listeners out there, right now you have the fourth most points scored. So Strickland Propane has been putting up some numbers, but unfortunately, it seems like the world's a bit against you. Sitting down in 10th, 2-4, one spot clear, becoming the head pro for the FTTC Golf League next year. You feel like everything's just against you so far?
That's just the way fantasy goes sometimes. I feel like, despite everything that's gone wrong with my team so far, some of it self-inflicted, some of it not. I feel like maybe there's still a run in them. There's still a run to be made, but with each passing week, that seems less and less likely. So hoping that can get turned around maybe starting this week.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, there's a lot of parity in our league this year. There's really not much separating the top from the bottom, and while you're only a game out of last, you're also only 2 games out of first. So things could easily turn around for you. And with the numbers you're putting up, I mean, Are you hopeful that you can turn this thing around and really resurrect it?
Well, the past 2 weeks have not been very. I've been trending down, I guess is what you could say. I think I failed to clear 90 points in both of those matchups. But I mean, the first 3 weeks, my team was looking pretty strong. So I'm in a bit of a lull right now. I would really like it would give me a lot of it would instill a lot of confidence in me if the boys could turn it around and maybe put something up in the triple digits this week.
Yeah, triple digits are always nice, especially because you're probably out of shotgun territory. We've
Yes.
had some pretty similar shotgunners this year. Not too much variety, it seems. I think we've only
Yeah.
had maybe three people shotgun, so it's been
Yeah,
so
that's right. I
it's
think
been.
just yeah, Shill, Bill, and Coco. Yeah, just those three.
And well, I think Duranty's got a couple of there too,
Oh,
so
Andrew
maybe
Andy.
four.
Yes, yes, Andrew Andy
Yeah.
four. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
So so far, who's been your favorite shotgun? Does Schillinger's toothless
Oh
shotgun take
man,
the cake, or do you think there's been
it's it's really hard to beat just turning the camera on, watching that video, and the first thing you see is a hillbilly Schillinger missing a front tooth. So probably his. I mean, I don't know. I thought Billy's was pretty good too, despite I feel like he spilled half of it, and the
oh
socks in
yeah.
the shower. The socks in the shower move is just psycho. But yeah, probably we'll go 1A Schillinger toothless shotgun, and then 1B Billy's bathtub shotgun,
I
the
love
tub
that.
gun.
I think both of those are pretty good, and honestly, I kind of like the just overall like emanating sadness of Duranty's videos, where like he just seems like he has
Yeah,
absolutely no hope, and that just to
is that
me.
rock bottom? Yeah, that's when there's like that someone is really just kind of grasping for straws is when normally, like I feel like when we do a shotgun, there's normally a little preamble where we say like, oh, thanks to this guy on my team for just fucking me over this week, and in Duraney's case, he just said, it's not looking good, did the shotgun, and then just ended the recording. I think he reiterated that it wasn't looking good after he finished the shotgun, but yeah, that's a man in dire straits right there.
Yeah, he's down bad. I think he's sitting down 12th place right now. But looking at
That's
your
right. I
squad,
mean,
go,
I was just
go
gonna
ahead.
say I can't be too hard on him because I just lost to him this past week. So maybe I guess I'm in dire straits with him, but
Yeah,
whatever.
maybe. But looking at your squad, you got a lot of talent here. A lot of pass catchers, a lot of wide receiver talent. I mean, obviously the running backs have been pretty brutal, and I think I've mentioned the corpse of Gus Edwards in your starting lineup several
Yes,
weeks in the
Gus Bust.
podcast now.
Yeah.
Have
Yes.
you been close to making any moves trying to get a running back in the door?
Um, not quite, not as of yet. Excuse me. I feel like the only two. I mean, there are definitely some guys on my team that I could see myself moving if the price was right. I want to give it maybe like when is the trade deadline in our league? I honestly have no
That's a great
idea.
question. I
It's
think it's usually like week 9 or 10.
okay. So I would like to give it maybe 1 or 2 more weeks before I make any moves one way or another. I feel like the volume is there for old Gus Edwards. He's getting like 15 touches a game. He's just like not doing anything with that. So probably could use an upgrade there. There are definitely some teams that have RB talent to spare. I am just reluctant to part with my guys. I feel like if I were to put some feelers out there that uh, I'm not in a position right now where I can be sending any like 2-for-1 offers or something like that. So I feel like people would be trying to pry away either one of my like top two receivers, maybe my quarterback, and kind of just try to like throw some scraps to me in return. So I might try to see if I can right the ship a little bit, maybe get a little more on track before making something that could be seen as more mutually beneficial as opposed to like just trying to get something out there, just trying to get somebody in the roster except for besides Gus Edwards. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think you have to hit the panic button yet. And I mean, obviously, Patrick Mahomes hasn't really been Patrick Mahomes yet either. And I
yeah,
think that's
it's been
a bit
tough.
of a contributor to your current situation. But, um, we We have some mailbag questions for you this week, and it's the first time
Oh, good.
you'll be the first guest we've had on who we're going to toss some mailbag questions to. And I want to get to those,
Nice.
make sure we got enough time for them because there's some decent ones. But our first one out here is from Mr. Vic Vinegar,
Okay.
who's looking to get some information for you. He said, you've really been getting the brunt of the league. You have the most points against, and Billy's getting away with just skating by, barely getting over the 500 points for mark. Yet sitting at 3-3, and you're at 2-4. I think we answered this a little bit, but do you think that you're going to be in the fantasy gods' good graces this week?
Um, I can only hope so. I'll try to do like the equivalent of like a reverse jinx tomorrow before the Thursday games kick off, and I'll just shotgun a beer before the game kicks off to try to like get myself into those good fantasy graces. It was definitely tough a couple weeks ago to see Billy get away with that 69 point win. I don't think like
Brutal.
I think that's got to be the lowest point total that's been able to get a win in our
Yeah,
league
sure.
in the league history. Um, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see if I can turn it around. Probably not, but maybe.
All right. Well, Mr. Vic Vinegar's got one more for you. He says,
Oh,
quote, as someone who loves to take risks with their lineup, Sam seems to stick to the projections almost religiously. He'd love to hear your theory for lineup strategy and why you believe that the Yahoo AI is the most potent production source out there. And it's not because he's playing you next week.
um, I mean, at this point, I feel like it's not so much as the projections as it's just like who I have available to start. I mean, it's either I start. Like, really the only choice, or the only choice I have to make is whether or not I flex Debo Samuel or Nico Collins. And yeah, I feel like as the saying goes, you got to start your studs. Debo Samuel is a although he has been extremely mid as of late. Um, so yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the Yahoo AI can predict something good for a change, and I'll win this week. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, on the topic of Debo, if McCaffrey misses any time, people are picking up Jordan Mason thinking he's going to be the guy. But I mean, when McCaffrey was out last year, Debo was really the guy. And that's when he was throwing up, 30-point performances left and right.
Yeah. From what I've read, excuse me, it doesn't sound like it's going to be too serious of an issue. Oh, excuse me again. It sounds just like an abdominal, like soft tissue thing. I don't think he's going to miss very much time, if any, at all. But if he were to re-aggravate that, and Asaf's other running backs weren't able to get it done, then yeah, I could definitely see Debo getting a little uptick in high value targets, high value looks, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, there's a lot of upside in your team. But we got one more mailbag question for you here. And this is a long one. It comes from Team DS, who
Okay.
asks, quote, in 1989, parentheses, what up, Swifties? The lowly Cowboys were on track to finish 1-15, and Jerry Jones had to make a change in his first year of ownership. In what is now known and widely regarded as the worst trade of all time, the Vikings made a godfather offer for Herschel Walker, who was coming off a 1,500-yard rushing campaign the prior season. The final trade tally resulted in 4 players and 8 picks, 6 firsts and 2 seconds for the Cowboys, who ultimately used the combination of players and picks to build a dynasty that won 2 Super Bowls, and the Vikings received Herschel Walker, who almost immediately exited his prime, lost all value, and retired. Now, some might say it is eerily similar to when Strickland Propane made his own Herschel Walker trade, when he took the title for worst FTTC trade of all time with the infamous Jamal Charles overpay of 2017. But did he somehow retake his own worst trade title this year when he traded DeAndre Swift and Chris Godwin to Roadrunners parentheses Naz for Mr. Questionable Debo Samuel and AJ Dillon? Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's a valid question, and we're only 6 weeks into the season. They're about to be seven, so there's plenty of time for that trade to prove itself in my favor or swing more towards Durani's favor. It's definitely looking like Durani won that trade right now, but yeah, that could easily be another case of me shooting myself in the foot and just tanking my season before it even got started. So, thanks for the question, Team DS.
Yeah, Team DS coming out here with a nice, mouthful of words, but I think you're safe on the worst trade of the year. I think that is by far going to go to Mr. Stinky Pete over there, with the deal that he sent to Vic Vinegar, giving away basically half of his top talent for absolutely nothing in return. So you're probably safe on the worst trade. But if you are looking to make a move, you got an open mic right now. Anything you want to broadcast to the league in terms of moves you might be looking to make, or players you're looking at?
I mean, it clearly seems like the league believes that I have a deficiency when it comes to evaluating trade talent. So hey, just send something over. You never know what I'll click accept on.
Well, you heard it here first. Strickland Propane is open for business, willing to evaluate all offers. They may or may not take it, but Sam, we appreciate you joining us today, and hopefully things turn around for you. I think Strickland Propane has a lot of talent. Like I said, there's a lot of upside in this roster, and it could just be a matter of time before, or maybe even you're maybe even one waiver wire pickup away. Who knows? But I think you're looking a lot better than some of the other teams in the league. That's for sure.
Well, I don't have any waiver budget left, so that's highly unlikely. We'll see. We'll see, though. Yeah, you never know.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. We look forward to speaking with you soon, and best of luck in the future, Sam.
Cheers, fellas.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was our interview with Mr. Sam Prentice, Strickland Propane. Best of luck to him in the future. And thanks again for listening to another episode of the FTTC podcast. Best of luck to our league in the upcoming Week 7 matchups. We look forward to recapping them again next week. I'm your host, Jason Stagwitz. Until next time.